Oh, I can hear you now. What's up?
How are you?
I'm good. What is PETRO AI?
What is PETRO AI? That's a great question. So, PETRO AI is a thesis or a capital cycle, essentially, that I gave a name to called PETRO AI. It's a new capital cycle that's born from the collision of oil, AI, defense, and deglobalization, right? So it's the flow of oil dollars. So remember the Trump trip all the way to Saudi Arabia? So that investment sparked a new capital cycle. Okay, it's where basically the flow of oil dollars, sovereign capital, and institutional money from the old petrodollar system, and into U.S.-controlled AI, energy infrastructure, and defense tech. So the core of the PETRO AI thesis is oil, energy shortage, AI data centers, and defense stocks. So the Saudi and the Gulf states investing in the U.S. With the AI plus the energy as a new global currency. So AI itself is no longer just tech. It's energy intensive, security critical, and weaponized. So the PETRO AI, when you hear PETRO AI, is basically a new capital cycle, right? It's the capital rotation of our era, of our area, actually. It's where the geopolitics meets the capital markets and where energy meets compute. It's where oil dollars meets the AI chips.
Okay, yeah, that sort of makes sense to me.
So, one thing, if you would like to do, is I've been throwing my thesis out there, pretty aggressively, just putting it out there, right? Whether it's right or wrong, I think that's, remains to be seen. So far, it's been deadly accurate. So, in your private time, if you want, you can go ahead and ask Grok to analyze all of my PETRO AI tweets. Just make sure you put it as one word, and since, let's say, last year, and say how this thesis has evolved and what is his thoughts on it and how accurate has it been thus far, and it'll explain to you. And this is why, which, perfect segue, this is why, I'm bullish from the standpoint of, it's going up, right? Not bullish from the standpoint of fundamentals of quantum, okay?
Okay,
so quantum
we can talk quantum in a second. I just wanted to chime in on the end of the AI stuff. I know AI pretty well. My wife was one of the first people at OpenAI and launched ChatGPT, and I'm friends with a lot of the senior management of most of the AI companies and many of the chip companies. And it remains to be seen where energy, right now energy is not a bottleneck, but it'll be interesting to see if energy will or won't be a bottleneck. There was a new paper even a few days ago that suggests that we still have a lot more efficiency gains coming for compute, potentially as much as 20x efficiency gains, which means 20x less chips. Of course, Jevons paradox suggests we can get 20x more demand too. So I think, this idea of the grid can't handle this, et cetera, is, I'm a little suspicious of that. I think we still have a lot of room and time to go. Right now, the grid can't handle this kind of chip and this kind of expansion. But if you fast forward a few years, I think inference will be much, much cheaper. But anyway, tell me what you think about quantum.
Okay, so really quickly regarding your comment, I agree the infrastructure is not set up for what's coming in. The infrastructure, in my opinion, is adapting to what's coming in. So let me explain if you don't mind. So the chips, the data center, the AI is the first peak, right? But as we expand and as we grow that particular segment, we need power, we need energy. How do we compute that energy? How do we get that energy? How do we make that energy adaptive? How do we take that energy and make it more?
Like I said, right now, we don't need energy. I think in the future we might, but we still have inference gains and algorithmic gains that are coming that may reduce the need for chips. That's my only point, is if the algorithms get better, the amount of chips we need may drop dramatically, so you can get more out of a chip. looking at it as the most bullish thing possible, where, the whole world is covered with chips, it's kind of like, I'm bullish on all these companies. I have investments in private AI companies and things like that. But like, it's possible that that doesn't happen. It's possible that, in fact, there is still a lot of demand and the chips just become more efficient, or God forbid, it is possible that all this stuff we're dreaming up just doesn't actually, the demand doesn't actually show up, and it all falls to shit, which obviously many people think might happen. I'm a bull, but I don't think I'm so bullish that we're going to overwhelm the grid with inefficient chips. I think that the chips are going to get better, and the software that runs the chips will get better. That's just my 2 cents. I mean, obviously, if you feel that we're just going to have so much AI demand, it'll just overwhelm everything, and or there's going to be data centers cover the earth and so forth. I mean, it's a totally valid point of view, and I think that many people think that might happen too. I'm just pointing out that, one, I mean, we're not 100% sure that these algorithms don't get better. And then 2, I believe, into the demand, but at the same time, I recognize that it could be wrong. And 10 years from now, we look back and laugh at how crazy we went over AI. It's possible. I really don't think it's going to happen, but, it is possible that the bears could be right here.
Absolutely, it is possible. And I'll tell you where I'm wrong. Okay, where I'm wrong is the thesis on the basic stock market concept that people like you that do this for a living are know of, right? So like when you become a bear on a stock, you're short for a particular reason, just like how I'm long for a particular reason, right? Like whether there's $0 revenue, God, there's no money. What are you talking about?
Growing at 22.6%, CAR retail analysis market size reached USD 58.4 billion by 2022 globally.
On the fundamental aspect of quantum, I want to make myself explicitly clear. I'm on your side when it comes to those types of fundamentals and stuff like that. 100% on your side. But what I believe everyone is missing is how the capital cycle is rotating. The capital cycle doesn't care about revenue. The capital cycle doesn't care about evaluations. The capital cycle doesn't care that, RGTI is a hole in the wall on the side of many other companies, right? It doesn't care about that. Evaluations care about DARPA contracts. Evaluations care about how the money is going to be repositioned in, where all that $17 trillion of assets is going to be traveling into. That's what the new trade is, the macro fit, right? So energy, the real issue isn't technical efficiency, it's the geopolitical resilience, right? Energy grids are optimized for wartime and high compute national security workloads. Like that's what they are. But PETRO AI, the whole thesis predicts that the rebuild of sovereign grids, right, is designed for cognitive defense infrastructure. So the grid isn't underbuilt per se. It's how do I say it? It's I would say underdefended, right? Efficiency is the luxury. The sovereignty is the new metric, right? Remember what Trump's always says: sovereign, 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 sovereign. So the PETRO AI thesis maps where these nations rebuild the grid as a compute infrastructure. So we're not talking over megawatts. We're kind of talking over mind share per se, right? The efficiency crisis, right? And the outdated paradigm of where energy serves the compute. The PETRO AI thesis flips it. Compute now serves energy, right? So the old grid distributed the power, but the new one will distribute the intelligence. So the efficiency isn't the ceiling, the cognition is the floor. That's what PETRO AI thesis is about.
Okay, so I guess let's talk about quantum, I guess. So do you believe that quantum computers will be used in the future?
Yeah, but we're extremely far from that point.
Okay. When do you think they'll start being used?
I mean, look, from where the technology is today and how much more it has to go, I would say at least 20 years.
Okay. So to me, I mean, it seems like it seems like it'd be hard to sustain the valuations that we see today if the products won't be used for 20 years. That's, to me, a pretty bearish thing. Because I think that the average owner of these stocks is not thinking that. The average owner of these stocks thinks that quantum's coming tomorrow and it's better than NVIDIA.
So, okay, so I agree with that, okay? Again, this is why, so if this trade was based on conceptual evaluation and, the whole idea like, OKLO was not going to have its power source ready until 2030, why the fuck am I trading it right now? I'm going to short it.
Well, let me just say, I'm from the biotech sector, and in biotech, we have to discount cash flow that's often decades away because it takes 10 years to develop and discover a drug, and then you get 10 years or 15 years sometimes of cash flow. So I'm very used to forecasting 2040 cash flow, 2050 cash flow. But I think here, the expectation for, for something like 𝗥𝗚𝗚 is, these things will take a long time, but they'll be fat cash cows in the future. And you can just do a discounted cash flow. You don't even have to do a full model. You can just say, okay, in 2035, 𝗥𝗚𝗚 will have 100 billion in revenue and 40 billion in net income. Discount that back on a 𝗕𝗢𝗡𝗅 calculator. And what's that worth today? 10, 15 billion. Well, that's the market cap, and I think that's reasonable for maybe 𝗥𝗚𝗚, but for quantum, it's hard to see what that 2030 or 2040 or 2050 cash flow actually is, because I don't actually see the use case. But I think the average Joe understands that 𝗥𝗚𝗚 is a long time from now. But I think the average Joe thinks that, the IonQ CEO, for example, he's saying by 2030 or 2027, they'll be better than NVIDIA. And I think he thinks that. I think the shareholders think that. So I think you and I thinking that it's 20 years away is pretty bearish.
20 years away from the standpoint of, if you take a look at the industry from a helicopter view, right? And the strides we made and, what's happening right now and what's implemented right now, that's the cycle. Slice and dice it however you want it to be bearish or not, but that's how it is. Having, a CEO is the best salesman in a company, period. Just like Donald Trump. So if the CEO gives you an aggressive timeline, that's what they're trying to do. I agree. The consumer level quantum hardware is decades out, but here's the thing. We're not trading the fundamental aspect of what we're talking about. We're trading where capital is flowing. We're trading applied quantum architecture that's already here, right? Embedded inside existing energy systems, right? Simulation layers and security communication protocols with the telcos. So the quantum era won't start with a laptop per se, or with a server up and running that's running, AEM or AI, right? It starts with the grid. So the single line, right, it starts with the grid, right, is the key, because it's all based around the PETRO AI energy thesis and the quantum and the AI thesis. So people conflate quantum computers with, qubits on a chip, right? That's right. Consumer, fantasy, in my opinion. The real story of quantum informed compute is probability, can't say the word correctly, probability prediction modeling, right? Like plasma feedback, AI-driven control systems that are already using quantum math under the hood. So we don't have to wait for the quantum computers 20 years down the road, per se. The world is already running quantum simulations. They just call them AI optimizers. That's the difference. Right? It's kind of like the scenario of before we had access to ChatGPT and Grok and shit like that. Do you remember going on a website and the little chat dialog box appears and you can chat with something? Well, that's a canned centralized of information. It's not going to give you a response like how when you go on a website today, that little chat dialog box appears. It gives you a detailed AI-centric response now. So that's a difference, right? AI optimizers versus
quantum. So quantum computing do you think at any point in the future will be valuable and what, and like sell billions of dollars of revenue to people who want to compute stuff? Is that ever going to happen?
Yes.
Okay. Well, tell me about what that looks like. Like, who's spending the billions? Who's getting the billions? And for what exactly?
Right now, we're in the infancy stages of the quantum aspect, right? Per se. I think we can all agree with that.
Yeah.
But so in order for quantum to essentially evolve or to evolve faster or get to the timeline of the 20 years a lot quicker, or maybe to the IONQ's CEO's timeline, maybe, in order for that to happen, things need to get accelerated. In order for things to get accelerated, money needs to pour in. In order for money needs to pour in, okay, there's specific guidelines and procedures in order for that to happen, like the DARPA contracts, right? So those contracts specifically, when government gives contracts for research and development, that's a catalyst. It's not a revenue-driven catalyst. It's not a fundamental-based catalyst. Look, what I'm saying is the trade of quantum from this perspective has already occurred. I'm not saying buy RGTI at $48. I'm not saying buy IONQ at $70. You've already missed the trade. You missed the trade when I told it at $7.50 for RGTI.
Okay, I get we're just getting a little off track. So today, xAI will buy $20 billion of NVIDIA chips. So they raise the money from investors. They send it to NVIDIA. NVIDIA sends them a bunch of chips, and then they train AI models with those chips and run inference with those chips. I guess, what I'm trying to ask is, like, in your vision, in 20, whatever year it is, it doesn't even matter what year it is, really, who is paying for quantum computing and why are they paying for it? And what are they going to do with it, I guess is the question. I know it's been a great long trade, and you're very, great for having been long it. I mean, it's been one of the best performing sectors ever. But I want to understand, like, when it comes time to sell product, who are these companies selling the product to, and what are those customers going to do with the product?
So there are different types of applications to it, right? So some of the applications are licensing. Other applications where eventually, once quantum reaches a specific okay, so remember when NVIDIA CEO, I can't remember exactly what it was, but remember when NVIDIA CEO all of a sudden was on TV and he said, oh, quantum's 20 years out, and all of a sudden all the quantum stocks fell 30% and you were really, really happy? Remember that day?
Of course.
I mean, amazing, congrats. But that statement was kind of from the standpoint was he knows what he's doing, right?
Well, maybe we can just focus on the question I asked, please. Like, I just, like, who's the customer? What do they use the chip for?
The customer is NVIDIA. The customer is AMD. The customer is Microsoft. The customer is Amazon. The customer is the U.S. government.
Okay, that's great. But what do they use the box for?
For compute and integrating the energy grid.
Okay, so I buy a quantum computer on Microsoft. I do a lot of stuff in technology. What do I do with it? How do I succeed with it? Why am I buying it? So for NVIDIA, for the xAI example, I buy 20,000 NVIDIA chips. I train something called Grok 4. It's really smart. People pay for Grok 4. And I'm making a big gamble that the chips that I'm buying, the cost of those chips, which is enormous, is going to be recouped by people paying for Grok 4. I may be right, I might be wrong, but that's what Elon's doing that's why he's paying NVIDIA money. That's why OpenAI is paying NVIDIA money, etc. Why Microsoft pay a quantum computer company money? What are they going to do with that thing?
So, first, quantum revenue won't come from quantum computers per se. In my opinion, it'll come from quantum optimizing infrastructure, right? The energy, the defense, the AI firms using quantum feedback loops to cut costs and secure the compute. The money shows up as efficiency premiums in all the security contracts and the services, not the retail hardware. So
I mean, when you say retail, I just want to be clear. When you say retail hardware, Rigetti just sold a chip for $3 million. and D-Wave sold one for 15 million. So it's not retail hardware. I mean, this is huge, huge machines that are, cooled down to low temperatures and stuff like that. I mean, somebody's buying them because their vision of quantum computing is that you can actually, run things on a quantum computer. It sounds like you don't. I mean, I'm trying to fast forward to that day when.
Let me give you an example then of companies, right? Pat, for those three, the cloud-based quantum optimization modules, right? The pay per task to compute the contract for the AI model training efficiency, as well as the energy cost reduction, right? The higher margin for AI cloud services. So you won't see quantum computers on balance sheets per se. You'll see cloud providers posting 30% energy savings under like an algo optimization scenario.
Okay.
That's where quantum revenue is hidden inside of it in AI's P&L.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of using the cloud. In fact, I'm one of the only customers of quantum on the cloud right now. And I think I'm AWS's biggest quantum customer. But in any event, the question I have, I guess, is so I access this computer through the cloud, and I guess you're claiming that...
You're Microsoft. You have a computer, and you're accessing it through the cloud, right?
Sure, yeah.
So let's use that Microsoft example you were using. So you're building the software layer that links the quantum logic to the classical cloud infrastructure. That's what you're doing being Microsoft. But think of it like this. If NVIDIA builds the GPU, right, and IONQ builds the quantum chip, then Microsoft builds the bridge that lets both run inside of Azure, right? So that bridge is the Azure quantum platform. So which already integrates like, Qiskit and CIRQ, the leading quantum program frameworks, right? Yeah. So Microsoft is essentially, in your scenario, turning energy and compute into a coherent language layer, right? Where electrons and qubits and data streams all speak under one operating system.
Okay, so I'm still trying to figure out what the customer, whether it's Microsoft or their end user, cloud user, what are they going to use with the chip? Why does the chip help them?
Why does the what?
How does the chip help them?
I just explained it to you. It helps them by optimizing their AI runtime and energy compute.
Well, I guess I run AI programs. I program AI. As I mentioned, my wife's at OpenAI, and we're struggling trying to figure out exactly how quantum could help. Because is there an algorithm or is there a tool that specifically would be useful?
There's licensable algorithms that are deployed today. That was the point that I was trying to make right before the NVIDIA example. Those already exist today.
Which names? Which algorithm? Shore's algorithm? Grover's?
So,
is there a name for this algorithm?
1 second, let me check my notes. I forgot the name.
Please do. Because OpenAI, I know about 100 people that work at OpenAI, and they're really desperate for something that could make it go faster. And when I talk to them, they say there's nothing out there.
Okay, but I think everyone's missing the point about what they say that we wish we could make it faster. They don't wish that they can make it faster.
Or more efficient or whatever, anything. Give me anything.
Faster is the wrong word. In my opinion, the correct term should be more efficient.
Okay, whatever it is, what...
So you know what AI data centers really well, because you talk to all the CEOs. So their number one thing that they probably complain to you about is, oh my God, the amount of power that all it takes is incredible.
Not really, no.
Really?
Yeah.
So you're telling me if OpenAI can increase their efficiency, their energy efficiency by 30%, that that's not going to hit their bottom line?
The chip cost is the majority cost for these data centers. So, for example, if you talk to Lambda, which is the second biggest GPU cloud, you can find the CEO on X. He follows me, and we follow each other and post to each other. He's an investor in my company, so we have a pretty good relationship. And he is, about 100,000 NVIDIA GPUs, and he's told me that in this business, energy is a single-digit percentage cost. It's really chips in the data center that are the bulk of the costs for a data center like that.
Yes, the initial cost, but what about the ongoing?
No, I'm talking about the ongoing cost. Amortizing, depreciating the chip is the majority of the cost. Servicing, so forth. Energy is not.
So
not a bottleneck yet.
Okay, so Microsoft's customers for quantum aren't consumers like you and I. They're industrial. They're government.
Yeah, of course.
AI.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Right. So customers like, let's take for example in the energy grid, like Shell, Siemens, Duke.
Great. How are they going to use quantum?
Okay, so these companies already use Azure for data and grid management. Okay, I know that for a fact because they
We use
used to sell
cloud.
ERP systems to all.
Everybody
They used to
uses.
sell ERP. They used to sell ERP systems to all of these utility companies.
Everybody
So I know
uses
exactly.
cloud. Yeah. Yep.
Okay, so they predict low demand with fewer errors. They optimize the grid balance dynamically. They simulate fusion and battery chemistry.
You're talking about with quantum?
Yes.
Okay. So
Shell uses Microsoft's quantum simulator to optimize carbon capture logistics. So it reduces the OPEX, pays Microsoft more. So the customer isn't buying the equipment; they're buying the stability of it. Right? And both of them.
How does that happen? With respect to.
How does it?
Yeah. I'm curious what algorithm they're using because that sounds like a really amazing advance.
So maybe touch base with Microsoft and ask them how energy customers today are currently using the quantum layer within Azure.
Well, are they using a chip or are they using? What are they using exactly? Are they using Rigetti's chip?
No, who? Microsoft or the
client? The client, yeah, the energy company.
No, okay, so again, IONQ, right, per se builds a chip. Microsoft bridges that, right? So it runs it inside Azure.
Yeah.
So Azure becomes the quantum platform.
Yeah.
So the customer will log into the quantum side of the Azure platform and do this.
Yeah.
That's how that works.
I do that every day, but when I go onto the Azure or AWS quantum platforms or IBM's or anyone else's, the chips are really small. They're not really useful. So I'm trying to figure out how to use them so that they can compute anything. Because right now, I posted the other day that on AWS's computer, I wasn't even able to add 2 3-digit numbers. So optimizing energy grids sounds like a pretty tough thing to do for, versus like adding 2 numbers. Is there an algorithm you're aware of that would be useful for users of quantum computers? The only one I'm really aware of is Shor's algorithm, which takes factoring from exponential running time to polynomial running time, which is a huge leap. But factoring 2 numbers is kind of not really a big business use case for anybody. So quantum is looking for kind of other options or opportunities. The IonQ co-founder, Chris Monroe, recently said that he doesn't know what the application is. Nobody does, certainly not factoring. So they're hoping, and this is what Sundar at Google says as well, which is they're hoping to find an algorithm that's useful. This is the great search. What algorithm will be useful so that a quantum computer can compete with a regular computer? Because right now it's not a competition at all. The quantum computers are so anemic. But one day, maybe there'll be an algorithm that actually lets them compete with an NVIDIA or Intel or AMD chip.
Okay. So I think, I'm trying to frame this in my